I'm happy to share information about the opportunities within CTE for prospective teachers. If in the chat you can write down the industry sector that you're thinking about, and when it comes to CTE teaching, as well as whether you're looking for high school and or community college. So if you guys can kind of type that in the chat, that'll give us an idea as to where we should be focusing during this presentation. Okay. So we have healthcare, automotive, HVAC, electrical, high school or community college, graphic design, automotive, energy. Okay. Okay. Automotive for Rio. Okay. Good. So I'm assuming you understand the regular pathway into teaching, with which are your multiple subject credentials, your single subject credentials for K through 12. For a community college, for academic areas, a master's degree in that specific area is what is required. For some of the technical areas, like in CTE, there are what we call minimum qualifications. And that's going to depend on the years of experience that you have, in addition to the degrees that you possess. The California Community College's Chancellor's Office has a website specifically on minimum qualifications. There has been talks about revising these minimum qualifications. I am not privy to those conversations, but things are happening around the state in regards to revising some of those minimum qualifications. So it might be worth your time to do some research to look at some of the community colleges that you would like to be employed as an adjunct at this time, and see what their minimum qualifications are, almost to kind of get your foot in the door. In case they were I'm going to share my website, and if at any time you have a question, if you can put it in the chat, and if I can quickly address it, I'll address it. And if Emily can let me know in case I miss a question, I'll definitely go ahead and respond to it as well. I'll share the link in the chat for those of you that are interested in working at a California community college using minimum qualifications. And these are specifically for certain areas. The area is going to depend, right, on the types of faculty members that they have and the degrees that they've attained. The key is the years of experience, documented experience in the specific industry. Industry certifications are important. Additional trainings that you might have done related to that industry are important. You have to kind of bulk it all up in addition to an AS degree. And it's going to depend on the industry that you're looking for. Some of these, some individuals now come in with a bachelor's degree, and some of them come in with higher degrees. So it's not always just the minimum qualifications. You do have to go through, obviously, the interview process. You have to meet the minimum qualifications, and there obviously has to be adjunct positions. So the most popular ones are stated here for adjunct positions at a community college. It's pretty self-explanatory. And I can share a little bit of what what I know for Rio Hondo College is there's minimum qualifications. So if you have 6+ years, I believe, in an AS degree, that meets minimum quals, or 6+ years and a bachelor's degree in any other field. So it's going to be staggering in regards to the degree. Why would the years of experience and the degree be important? In the chat, you guys don't have to talk. What would be the importance to kind of have a degree? The experience is important, very important. At the community college level, why would someone want a degree plus years of experience for these adjunct positions? Depending on the years of experience and the degrees that you have, the pay may be different. So if you have a bachelor's degree plus the years of experience, it would pay more than years of experience and an AS degree. Does that make sense? So when you're thinking of the fields that you're going into, a degree should not be out of the question. You should still consider obtaining a degree in a specific field, especially if there's one related to the industry that you're going to be pursuing. It's going to affect your pay. It has to be relevant, and it's going to depend on the industry. So yes, your experience has to be somewhat current. It can't be 20 years ago because technology has changed so much in all industries, really. And so the key is, especially when you see your adjunct professors at the different community colleges that you may attend, some of those adjunct professors may still be working in the field as they're being part-time employees of the college in these specific areas. So it is going to depend that your experience be relevant to current times because that's what you're being taught in the classroom. Questions you have? One of the ways to begin to look at what positions are open is if you Google the California Community College Registry. You'll be able to see all the adjunct positions, full-time positions, both for classified and staff. And you can begin to look at what they're looking for in their minimum qualifications. So you become very well versed as to what you need to put together if you're thinking about applying to any of these positions. Questions? So I'm going to put the first link for those that are interested in the minimum qualifications for CT areas. And that's just a list. It's not the full list of all the areas where minimum quals are accepted. For the jobs, when you're looking at, oops, sorry. I accidentally just posted it to one individual. Here you go. So when you're looking at adjunct positions, you go to the community college registry and you can find any position here across any of our California community colleges. And you should begin to work on this so you can put together your resume, your cover letter, your supporting documentation for minimum quals, and have people proof it before you actually submit it. Multiple positions across the state. Questions you may have about the California community colleges? None. Okay. I'll show you what we have here at Rio Hondo College. All California community colleges will have something very similar. But at least like that, you can go ahead and take a look as to what we're talking about when it comes to minimum qualifications. And so remember, for the academic programs, a master's degree is what's highly obviously sought after. That's the minimum requirement. But for some of the other ones, I know someone talked about, a couple said automotive. So what you'll see on the screen is ideally, right, what the minimum quals are, and then they have the additional qualification, and it's going to depend on the type of degree that you have, if you have one, and then the years of experience. So for CTE programs, you're going to be able to see typically the associate degree and the 6 years of experience, or then the bachelor's degree and the 2 years of related experience. And if you don't have that, you go to the next column and see if you meet one of the other minimum qualifications. And it goes across the board for the different programs. And the only ones that you can use minimum quals again are in CTE related programs. Okay. Any questions regarding minimum qualifications at the community college? No? Okay. The other area where you can teach as a CTE instructor is at a high school or ROP. And for those programs, you need to have the designated subject credential. The ROPs will accept individuals with a designated subject credential in a CTE program. High school districts that have CTE programs may also accept designated subject credential programs. It's very similar to your single subject credential, but it's not at a four-year institution. You complete it at LACO, and they have their own application process. They have their own deadlines. The time frame is about 3 years to get the clear credential. It does provide you with some of the similar credential courses like classroom management, lesson development, understanding how to facilitate the content. So that's to prepare you to be an effective teacher in the classroom. For LACO, and I can share my website that I have here. They have a whole wealth of information for those interested in the designated subject credential. Here it as well, the years of experience are going to come into play. For the high schools and the ROPs, you won't have a designated registry like we have for the California community colleges. You can find some of the jobs posted on EdJoin if the district or ROP participate in EdJoin, or you can visit each of the districts' website on your own to see if you meet the minimum qualifications. So I'll share this one as well for those of you that are interested in both. It's important to be competitive, so you may want to start at the high school, move into the community college, or start at the community college, move into the high school. We've met instructors that have done both ways. They've come from the high school into the community college, and we've had instructors that have started at the community college level teaching and moved into a district position at a high school district. So it could go both ways. The thing that we want to support is the love of teaching and providing that wealth of information that you have based on the experience you've already accumulated in the field. Questions you may have for me? No questions? Okay, so in everything, as you can see, you're going to have to read. There's a lot of information that you have to really understand to make sure that you meet those qualifications and that you are able to provide the correct supporting documentation so your application isn't turned away because you're missing information. And so same thing, LACO will provide you with all the information you need. They have a support team that works directly with individuals pursuing the designated subject credential. That is what they're there for. And then their minimum qualifications are slightly different than what the community colleges have. They go off of industry sectors. So when you're talking about the designated subject credential, I know someone, I think maybe building or trades, electronics, electrical, this is where it would fall off if you want to teach at a high school or an ROP that has CTE programs. And they'll list the industry sectors that they cover within the designated subject credential. Just like a regular multiple subject or single subject, you have a preliminary designated subject credential, and then you have to do the additional requirements to be able to get the clear credential. And that's the important part, so you're able to maintain your job at the district. It takes about 3 years to finish it. All classes are online to get the clear credential, I should say. Individuals can begin to work with the preliminary credential if the district obviously hires you. But there are some of the areas, somebody talked about infotech. You have some infotech here. We have some of the drafting. It's just going to depend on the ROP and the district, whether they have these areas and whether they are seeking individuals to fill those positions. And then obviously, you would have to have the experience, again, as well as maybe being a little bit more competitive with an AS degree and or bachelor's degree. Questions you have for me regarding designated subject credentials?
So would you be saying, like, if designated, so I'm going to go strictly teach automotive to high schoolers, or I want to go the community college route? There's certain requirements that obviously I need to meet within a certain time frame, but they'll allow me to say maybe within 1 year or within a timely manner.
Well, to start off, to be eligible to meet the minimum qualifications to get into the pool and be pulled out for interviews, you have to meet either the bachelor's degree and the 2 years of experience, the AS degree, or the 6 years of experience, or then you go on to the other minimum qualifications, which require the high school diploma, the 8 years of experience, plus, industry certifications. So it just depends where you fall into either of the equivalencies for you to be, meeting the minimum requirements for an adjunct position if that's what you're pursuing. So you may have already met it through the equivalencies, which is like the 8 years of experience, the high school diploma. It has to be documented experience for you to be able to be eligible to be selected from a pool, then to go through the interview process. At the community college for adjunct positions, they usually have a pool. So like right now, the pool of automotive instructors is open and people just apply. And then I think maybe once a year, the division will go in there and review if there is a need for adjunct positions. And then they begin to interview. Those interviews can take place now online and in person. When it comes to our CTE programs, though, the majority probably would want to do an interview in person because there's probably going to be a teaching demonstration. The individuals that interview you are going to consist of the dean, faculty members within that specific discipline, and then your representative from HR. For adjunct positions, it's just one interview, and then they'll kind of select the candidate that best fits the needs for that semester. For full-time positions, you're looking at 3-level interviews. So your first level, they bring it down to a manageable number of maybe 4 to 5 candidates. They push those to second-level interviews. And then from second-level interviews, those candidates go into third-level interviews, which are held with the president. So second-level interviews are held with VPs and deans. Third-level interviews are held with the president and HR VP. So it depends. Adjunct positions are slightly different than full-time positions at a community college. I really advise everybody that is interested in working at a community college to apply to multiple community colleges. They all have different needs. And if you really are interested in a career within a California community college, you want to get your foot in the door. If you have some teaching experience, like if you meet the minimum quals and you have some teaching experience anywhere at a community college, then that obviously makes you more competitive. You have to think of what's going to make you more competitive in addition to your experience already. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Questions you have for me? You can type them in the chat. You don't have to speak. Excuse me. For CTE teaching, there's going to be a huge need. Obviously, you've heard in teaching, there's a lot of retirements, there's a lot of shifts going on. That includes CTE as well. We need qualified instructors and faculty members in CTE as well. So it's a great opportunity for you to think about. You do have to build your work experience. Like I said, it has to be in a way that can be documented. Industry certifications are obviously a plus, make you more competitive. Teaching, even if you were to be a technical trainer at a specific in a specific industry, those are all seen as kind of teaching experiences that you can bring into the classroom. And then continuing with your education obviously makes you a more well-rounded individual. It makes you more competitive, and obviously pay is going to be impacted by the level of degrees that you have. So we don't want you to stop at, meeting the minimum qualifications. We want you to continue and move into different level of degrees, and hopefully with that, the opportunity to move into higher paying positions. Questions you have for me? Do I need to reshare some of the links? Did I miss any? If there's any information I missed, you could put it in the chat and I'll definitely address it. No questions?
Can you post that link you had in the beginning to the Rio Hondo equivalencies for experience?
Sure. And the majority of community colleges will have a
Thank you.
similar list.
Right.
You'll find it in their human resources site on their website.
Thank you.
Mhm. Any other link that I need to repost or information that you'd like for me to cover? Emily, I can wrap it up and kind of summarize again. Designated subject credential is for high schools and ROPs that have CTE programs. Work experience is obviously the key to be eligible. The process takes about 3 years for a designated subject credential. It is through LACO that you have to complete that process. It is an application process. You have to first complete the preliminary credential and then move through the process to get your clear credential. A lot of the high schools and ROPs may have retirements coming up, so it might be a great opportunity for you to start looking maybe on EdJoin or a specific district in case they don't participate in EdJoin, to see if you are competitive enough to be able to get into the ROP or the district. The preliminary credential will include some of the classes that you'll need to facilitate content, right? The whole classroom management, everything that you would do in a credential in order to become a more effective teacher will take place there. For the community colleges, you need to review the minimum qualifications, and you have to think of how competitive other candidates might be, and don't shy away from furthering your education. That'll make you a more well-rounded individual, as well as more of a competitive candidate when you come in through the interviews. I know at Rio Hondo College, and I believe through the network that the CTE Teach program has, there are opportunities for you to shadow teachers, to be mentored by teachers both at the high school ROP level as well as the community college level. That's something that Emily or Leah can go ahead and cover. It's something that takes place every semester, and I'll leave that for them. Any type of teaching opportunities that you get, even if at your current employment, you can train the new employees, train in the specific content. That is all skills that you add to your resume. You also want to practice your interviews before you come into a interview for any of the teaching positions. So we recommend that you, if you're, college has a job developer career center, that you do mock interviews, that you have someone proofread your resume, proofread your cover letter, look at how you structure your supporting documentation that lists all your equivalencies. You want to make sure you have a second pair of eyes on that to make sure that you're competitive enough to get into that first level interview. Adjunct positions are usually part-time. What they recommend, I don't know if it works now or not, but if you have multiple adjunct positions, it builds your teaching experience and makes you a little bit more competitive. They call a lot of us that have been adjuncts freeway flyers, because we're traveling from one community college to another community college. And then at some point we hope to gain a tenured position. And so it builds your experience. Any other questions? Emily or Leah, would you guys like to share the mentor opportunity? I don't know if these students are aware of those opportunities or they're part of it in regards to exposing themselves to possible careers in CTE teaching.
Yeah, so actually, I know there are some students that are part of the CPTP program, which stands for Community Partnerships for Teacher Pipeline. So I know you guys are familiar with the mentoring program, but for those who are not, we do have a mentoring program that is still available through spring of 2023. It is grant funded, so unfortunately, it does have an end. So what we do is we actually pair you with a mentor who is typically, a teacher for, in this case, for example, if you are interested in CTE teaching, we would match you with a CTE teacher so that you can, have the opportunity to shadow that teacher or learn about the teacher's journey or their pathway that they took. And so it's mainly an exploration of the teaching career that you're interested in. So if you are interested in that, if you're not part of the CPTP program, you're more than welcome to contact me or Emily. And yes, that's it. If you have any questions about that, you can email me also. My email is lmartinez@riohondo.edu. And Emily, if you can also type your email. There you go. Thank you. Also, first of all, we would like to thank Claudia for her presentation. Thank you, Claudia. Like I said, Claudia is our CTE counselor. So if you guys have any questions about any CTE program, she's obviously the best resource to ask, person to ask. Also, before you leave, I want to invite you to an event that is happening November 1st. So I believe that's already next week. My gosh, it's already November. So this is a GPL event. If you're part of the CPTP program, you are familiar with the Teacher Mentor Network. So we offer like different workshops, and this is one of the workshops that they're offering. And this is actually in person, and they're also doing it virtually. But we would love to see some of you here in person on campus. So if you're available, you're more than welcome to join us on November 1st. Room T102, Applied Technology Building, from 4 to 6 with Dr. Brandon Rodriguez, who is from NASA JPL. So this is really a great opportunity, guys, if you can join us. Okay, and I'm gonna put the link on the chat if you want to register for this. And we're also going to be sending this through email to all the CPTP students and mentors as well. Any questions before we leave?